Mate, what an absolute bloody disaster. You wouldn't read about it, but here we are. Albanese, the so-called man of the people, is copying it from his own mob because, wait for it, they reckon he's nicked funds from the housing project that was supposed to save struggling Aussies from sleeping in their cars. Can you believe this bloke? The guy who promised the sun, moon, and stars when it came to housing is now staring down the barrel of a mutiny. And not from the libs, not from Sky News, not from the shock jocks. Nah, his own bloody MPs are sharpening the knives. And that's how cooked this whole thing is. And look, let's not sugarcoat it, because Aussies can spot spin from a mile away. Albanese strutted around last election saying he'd fix the housing crisis, right? That he'd build over 1 million homes by 2029, a target so ambitious it made half the economists laugh into their flat whites. But Albo didn't care. He was busy pumping out the promises, flashing that grin, hugging tradies like he was auditioning for Home and Away. Now the numbers are in, and not only has he failed, he's behind by tens of thousands of homes already, and the funds that were supposed to actually build this dream, gone walkabout. Mismanaged, misplaced, or worse, redirected into projects no one can trace. And people reckon this is just incompetence? Nah mate, it reeks of something far more troubling. Before we RIP into this Albanese housing disaster, where billions vanish, Albo loses the plot, and his own MPs start sharpening the knives, smash that like button like you're smashing Labour's fake housing targets. Subscribe if you're sick of broken promises and missing billions. And grab the Who Voted for This shirt, links in the description. Now, here's where it gets properly scandalous. Word around Canberra is that Albo's top dogs in Treasury were warning him early on that the numbers didn't add up, that the construction industry was already strangled by worker shortages, spiraling costs, and council red tape. But instead of facing reality, he doubled down. Threw more taxpayer money at glossy announcements, held those staged presses with high-vis jackets, and sprayed funds like confetti at a wedding. Except here's the kicker. No one can quite figure out where a big chunk of the cash has ended up. Billions were earmarked for housing projects, but dig into the fine print and you find contracts with mates, consultancies with bugger all oversight, and millions swallowed by admin costs. And meanwhile, families are still living in tents, and Aussies are bloody furious. You talk to anyone in the suburbs, and they'll tell ya the same story. Rents skyrocketing, mortgages are crushing people and young couples. Forget about it. Buying a home is as realistic as catching a kangaroo on the M2. But Albo's solution? Drop a policy about first home buyers needing only 5% deposit. Sounds nice on paper, right? Except, mate, that just throws petrol on the fire. It pushes demand through the roof while supply is tanking. Prices climb higher, banks rub their hands, and the average Aussie gets shafted. And you reckon people don't notice? Every barbecue chat, every pub yarn, someone brings it up. Labor promised housing. But where's me bloody house? And that's why Labour MPs are panicking. The backbenchers, especially those sitting in marginal seats, they're sweating bullets. They've got voters screaming at them about rents, about their kids couch surfing, about developers hiking up prices. And now they've got to explain why billions in taxpayer funds are missing in action. Some are saying it outright. If Albo doesn't go, they're gone at the next election. That's not speculation. That's straight from party room whispers. And the whispers are getting louder. Albanese is apparently losing it behind closed doors, tearing strips off his colleagues, slamming tables, accusing journos of running smear campaigns. But deep down he knows this isn't the media's doing. This is his own bloody fault. And what really twists the knife is that the very people who helped him get the top job are now sharpening their blades. You've got Labour insiders leaking to the press, dropping stories about corruption and misuse of funds, even hinting at deals with developers who happen to be long-time Labour donors. Imagine the optics. Albo promises homes for the battlers, but the money ends up lining the pockets of property bigwigs with close ties to the party. If that's not enough to turn voters off for a generation, I don't know what is. And Albo? He's furious, because he knows once that narrative sticks, he's cooked. But here's the kicker, mate. It gets worse. Reports have come out showing that even if every dollar of this scheme had gone to where it was supposed to, there was no chance in hell the government could have delivered 1.2 million homes. Experts said it from day one. It's impossible without massive reform. But Albo didn't want reform. He didn't want to pick a fight with state premiers or councils or the unions. Too messy, too risky. So instead, he pumped out press releases, made himself look like a hero, and hoped the numbers would magically add up. Spoiler alert, they didn't. And now the housing shortfall could be as bad as 500,000 homes. 500,000. Think about that for a sec. That's hundreds of thousands of families with nowhere to go. That's a whole generation priced out. And yet, instead of owning it, he's screaming at MPs for leaking and blaming the opposition. Classic Canberra dodge. And you know what? Aussies are sick of it. You can feel it in the air, the frustration, the anger. Young people who actually believed Labor's promises are now saying they'll never vote for them again. Renters are packing up, moving back with their parents, giving up on starting families. Tradies are shaking their heads because they're told there's all this funding for housing, but the jobs aren't there. And Albo? He's still prancing around with his press conferences, talking about long-term solutions like anyone's buying it. The cracks in Labor are so bloody obvious now. You've got factions whispering about replacements, who'll step up if Albo gets the boot. Some reckon Tanya Plibersek's ready. Others reckon Jim Chalmers is biding his time, keeping his hands clean while Albo takes all the flack. But the fact we're even talking about successes shows how rattled the party is. Sitting PMs don't usually face this kind of chatter unless their own side knows the ship is sinking. And this ship? Mate, it's already halfway under. And here's the real spicy bit. Some insiders are saying Albanese knew exactly where those missing funds went, that it wasn't incompetence, but deliberate. That certain projects were funded as political favors designed to shore up Labor allies or silence critics. If that ever gets proven, if hard evidence drops, it won't just be the end of Albanese's career. It'll be a scandal that makes the pink bat scheme look like a minor accounting error. And with the election clock ticking, the opposition's just waiting, licking their lips, ready to hammer Labor Day after day until the voters can't stand the sight of them. So buckle up, folks, because this story's only just getting started. Albo's enraged, his MPs are in open revolt, and the missing billions in housing funds could turn into the biggest political scandal Australia's seen in years. The bloke who promised to fix housing might just end up remembered as the PM who broke it completely and maybe even stole from it. And if you think that's wild, wait till the leaks really start flying. Because when MPs smell blood, they don't stop. They tear the whole house down. See you in the next one, and don't forget to smash that like button harder than Labor smashed its own housing promises. And if you're sick of watching billions vanish while rents go through the roof, grab the Who Voted for This shirt. Wear it when your landlord jacks up the rent, when another housing target gets missed, or just down the pub when you're telling your mates how Albo turned a housing dream into a national nightmare. Stay loud, stay sharp, and never let them get away with stealing the future we bloody deserve.